I'm honored to host Coreyne Woodman-Holoubek today. She is a LinkedIn top voice in company culture, HR tech enthusiast, and the founder of Progressive HR. Coreyne has made a huge splash in a noisy world using social media platforms, particularly LinkedIn, to foster and support people leaders in their effort to create a positive company culture. Her expertise and influence in harnessing the power of LinkedIn for HR has made her a thought leader in this domain. Coreyne, I want to say welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Troy. It's an honor to be here and a pleasure to talk with you today.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, which is your line, because you said that to me before we jumped on here. But it's so true, because we've been talking about this for months and months and months and months. And so I'm so glad we are actually able to pull it all together, because I know you're going to just drop some wisdom bombs on us today. But before we do that, I always like to have a little bit of fun. And you said you were game for it, so we're going to do it. So I want to ask you, I know that we're going to be talking about LinkedIn company culture and all that jazz, and I'm super excited about it. But if you were to share something with us that is maybe a little bit humorous and maybe a little bit unexpected for Coreyne, what would you say, and it doesn't have to be related to your professional life, what would you say or be willing to share with us?
So it's interesting that you asked me that, because my one thing is both unexpected and embarrassing or humorous.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So some people who've known me for a while know this, but it's not something I often talk about. When I lived in England, I lived in a town called Plymouth. A lot of people know Plymouth because obviously Plymouth Rock and where the Pilgrims came from. But Plymouth was also a very large naval base during World War II. And so often the Queen and the Prince would come and inspect the Navy ships. And so one day I had heard that the Queen and Prince Philip were coming on land where I lived, called the Hoe. And it was this large, expansive, grassy knoll right before the cliffs of Plymouth that overlook the ocean. And they were coming up on the Hoe to say hello to the citizens. And I was like, well, I would like to see the Queen. I would like to see Prince Philip. And so I put it in my diary that I was going to go ahead and, stand in the crowds and see the Queen. Because, I lived in England, so why not? That's the kind of type of thing you do. And so the day came, and it was torrential rains and this horrible storm and 50-mile-an-hour winds. And I'm like, I am still going to see the Queen. So I put on my windbreaker, and in England, if you have an umbrella, it's useless because it just gets blown away anyway. So you basically have your poncho or your rain jacket and your wellies. And it was so bad that I had to take my red windbreaker and tie it around underneath my neck just to make sure it would stay on. So basically, this is part was what was showing my face. And so I walked up to the Hoe, and lo and behold, because of the bad weather, there was maybe 20 people there. So I went right up to the front, and I was so excited because I actually was if I reached out, I could touch the Queen. And she came walking, and by this time the weather had kind of calmed down. But, she had all these umbrellas and people, making sure that she was not wet. And the Prince was, holding on to her too. And they came walking by, and I completely forgot that I'd still had my hood tied down to just my face. And she stopped and she looked at me, and I can't do the accent. She's like, are you all right? Oh my God, the Queen talked to me. And
wow.
I go, and yes, ma'am. And then I'm thinking I'm wearing this dress, so I curtsy with it. I'm wearing jeans, and I curtsy like I'm holding my dress out. I'm thinking, why did I do that? Here, I'm just so shocked that she had said something to me. And then I realized that I had my hood tied around it. You could only see my face and my eyes and my nose.
Oh, that's great. And how many great stories have started with, I walked up to the Hoe? what an odd name for a place. No good stories. Yeah, awkward stories. Stories. That's incredibly funny. How many people, first of all, can say, especially not from the country, can say, I talked to the Queen? But second of all, for it to be so incredibly funny as far as the engagement, because you're like, I'm just trying to stay dry. I'm just trying to see the queen. I don't expect to get a face-to-face moment, right? But here we are, right?
and she just is so incredibly like serious. Like she was very concerned about me.
That's great. That's great. Did anything happen next, or did she just kind of move on?
No, I curtsied and she was like, she's fine. And she just moved on.
That's great. That's great. I might even curtsy. I might get a little flustered and curtsy, so you never know. That's gone.
Yeah, no, didn't expect something completely unexpected. And people who know me would be like, that doesn't sound like you. Because you seem to be like always calm in every situation and know exactly what to say and would never like fake curtsy. And
I wonder if the queen, if you asked her, today, if she was still with us, if she would have remembered it, because she was pretty sharp until the end. And so I'm curious if she would have remembered that moment, or if it would just be, one of those things that, but I don't know.
You bring that up and I'm thinking that she went back and like told Prince William and Prince Harry, and they had a jolly laugh about it. Because she was like, you never guess what happened to me today on the Ho.
Right. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Obviously, it didn't play out the way you probably had envisioned in your mind. You probably didn't envision it in your mind, but if you had, it didn't play out that way. But it is a memorable story, something you can always go back and be like, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, it's like my party story.
Which
like
party story?
That one story that you tell when you really want to get people to laugh at a party.
Yes, yeah. Well, I certainly thought it was entertaining, and I wish we would have got a picture of that moment. That would have been even better if it was memorialized with a nice little picture.
Well, now I can tell somebody. I can tell what is it? Those speed drawers,
yeah.
This is what happened. Maybe they could draw a picture of
like
it.
a caricature type,
like
person?
A caricature, yeah.
yeah. I don't even know if I said that right. So put it in the comments. Lambast me. I don't know. Did I say it right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if you're a caricature drawer and you
Yes.
would like to take on this mission of drawing a picture of me curtsying with my little hoodie, red windbreaker on, and the Queen and Prince Philip, then, hey, let's get connected.
Let's make it happen. We'll put it on the thumbnail of the video.
There you go.
Coreyne goes to the Ho and sees a who? The Queen.
The Queen.
No, I'm just... Well, Coreyne, you're incredibly resourced and invaluable when it comes to the world of LinkedIn. And so I was curious before we dive into that, because a lot of what you do every single day has a lot to do with you resourcing and equipping your peers and other organizations around how to use LinkedIn effectively. But I'm curious, what kind of prompted the story behind starting Progressive HR?
Yeah, so like most things, it's developed out of need. So I was working in corporate as a CHRO, and I started my family and realized that I just needed more flexibility. So I started working with my husband as a fractional CHRO. And one day I was I was interviewing at one of the clients that I was working with, an operations director. And I'd asked him, describe your perfect relationship with human resources. And he kind of looked at me quizzically, and he was like, well, HR is an admin function and a cost center, and so that relationship's not necessary. And I kind of looked at him, and I let the interview finish out, but, lo and behold, he didn't get the job. And you guessed it, he didn't get the job. Yeah. And then the other thing is that I was like, wow, I need to do something to kind of change this stereotype of human resources as a cost center and an admin function, and that we really just are police and policymakers, and we don't do anything that has business outcomes. And so I was like, what can I do to change this? And so I got involved with what many people know as Disrupt HR, that was put together by Jennifer McClure. And I ran Disrupt Madison and Disrupt Milwaukee for 5 years here in Wisconsin. And I was really focused on 3 driving forces that talk about the future of work, emerging technology. And it was really important for me to invite HR practitioners and executives to speak but make the forum open to all professionals to learn about progressive HR. And so going down the line years, and our endeavors received national press attention, and I started to receive requests for press interviews and regional TV interviews, plus larger and larger sponsors were interested in sponsoring the event. HR tech startups and core human capital management businesses like UKG and ADP and Pfizer. And I was creating more and more content around these events, and more content produced more and more sponsors, which produced more and more businesses that were interested in learning on how I created content to, evangelize what I was doing. Come 2019 and Disrupt Milwaukee and Madison were part of the innovation and tech ecosystems in the startup ecosystems in both Madison, Milwaukee, and actually Wisconsin as a whole. And we received the Wisconsin Innovation Award 50 on Fire for 2019. And that kind of really took off this idea within Wisconsin that HR was not a cost center, was not admin, but that progressive HR was the future, and that we talked a lot about technology and the future of work. Then the pandemic happened. And so I was like, oh no, we can't do any more of these in-person events. And so how am I going to run my business? And I kind of just looked at what am I doing for the in-person events that I could do virtual. And then progressive HR as LinkedIn content creation advisement began.
It sounds like it, in some ways, it was kind of destiny for you to take both the approach and to name it, which was progressive HR, right? Because I would agree with you. When I got into this industry, it was almost always perceived at the top as an administrative role within the organization. And here's what I can say, that has definitely changed. It's no longer, you can't refute the fact that there's administrative parts of it, but it's no longer the most important component of it, especially when you consider a lot of the technology that exists to remove the tactical and allow people of your caliber to be more strategic in how they're interacting with people. And not only that, with 5 generations in the workforce, you just can't ignore that they all need something different from their work, their colleagues, and certainly from the Department of HR, right? So I think it was very timely for you to come into the scene, having the experience and being able to move the ball forward and closer to the end zone where we all want to be. So I applaud you for that. So I also want to ask, why are you so passionate about LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn, there's a lot of social media platforms out there. I see people doing weird stuff, on the TikToks and other stuff, even in the realm of HR. But why have you embraced LinkedIn so passionately?
Well, I'm also passionate about TikTok, watching TikTok, not participating in TikTok necessarily.
Fair enough.
I mean, I get all my news and learn all my things that I'm doing now from TikTok. So TikTok is the future of learning. I honestly think it is, which gets me into a completely different another subject area, which we won't go down that rabbit hole. But you asked me the question why I'm so passionate about LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is really, it's dynamic. It is the way that LinkedIn developers have put together the algorithm. It is it's so dynamic, a combination of so many different skills that you need to have to really make LinkedIn function and be optimized. And I also think that it's a great purveyor of or reflection of somebody's culture and somebody's person. It drives business outcomes. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So again, so many other reasons why I'm passionate about LinkedIn, but those are the main ones.
And part of what we talked about is how, LinkedIn can be such a catalyst for supporting an organization's culture, which is really how we came together on this topic. So I'd love to hear, why do you believe that to be so, and how can it be used to build that a thriving culture and community online?
So we really have to look at the LinkedIn trends, and these trends change, change weekly, monthly, yearly. And again, that's another reason why hourly. Yeah, that's another reason why I'm so passionate about the platform, is because it's trends. You can see business trends on it. Very different from, let's say, Instagram or LinkedIn, or Facebook. But going back to your question, so there's a lot of ways that LinkedIn and social media can be used to build and support company culture. The main one being it's like an extension of employee communication and engagement. And you and I have talked about this as, trending into 2024, employee communications, especially around well-being and benefits and workplace wellness and happiness, is going to be like a huge trending topic coming into this next year. So I guess to say, like, employers, if you're not already on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn for employee communications, start doing that. But like LinkedIn, like companies that have robust LinkedIn training programs and posting support, content creation campaigns can really build excitement around your company endeavors and your company milestones. And it's really helpful to build team unity. A lot of companies don't really realize that how much team unity and team support can come from posting campaigns on LinkedIn. And then you also talk about like the knowledge share that happens on LinkedIn. It's really what happens when employees post around thought leadership. It can be really amazing for that. And it's a really informal peer learning that takes place independent of LMSs. Kind of like this when we talked about the... when you're looking at employee communications and you're looking at the like informal networks that happen in offices, like LinkedIn is an informal network for learning and thought leadership. It has a positive effect on career growth, positive effect on informal mentoring and career mobility, and it's really cathartic to learn about things and like go through your own learning journey on LinkedIn. It builds employee confidence, amazingly. Carrie Connor posted the other day about how she's going through this journey of, and I don't know how many days it is, but I think it was 44 days, of using LinkedIn as a way to support her mental fitness, and how important it is to post your thoughts on LinkedIn, not just because of the community support, but because it's like journaling, but in a different form. So again, going back to confidence and employee wellness, it's a great platform for that as well. Going back to team unity, sharing positive employee experience creates team and company pride, and it also creates candidate interest. And so you see a lot of candidates coming on to companies that have not just their executives that post regularly, but also their mid-level managers that post regularly. And you look at a great example of that is Melanie Naranjo from Athena. Like, Melanie has helped grow that company by posting her thoughts. And so it's like she's creating this buzz around Athena, not just for business, but also for, candidate experience. We can share our company values on LinkedIn, and people that are looking to come into our workforces can kind of get a feel for what our company culture and company values are by just reading our posts on LinkedIn. They don't necessarily have to interact with our posts, but they're just reading our posts. That can also work in a negative way too, but I look at it as the negative way as it is opening a door for opportunity. So stories of frustration or negative outcomes can usher culture change so much faster than ever before in our lifetimes, because again, we talked about this before, it trends so fast. LinkedIn trends, daily, weekly, hourly, to your point.
So how do you see kind of the need for this morphing over time? Because I think the way that culture was done 10 years ago is different than it is done today. And what kind of, resources, if you're saying practically how, say, different roles within an organization can use LinkedIn, what would you suggest to them?
Oh God, that's hard, because to your point, each role has a different way that they would engage with LinkedIn. It's interesting that you asked me that question, because a study was just released yesterday from Harvard Business School about connections on LinkedIn, and how not just executives that post about LinkedIn or on LinkedIn, but mid-level and entry-level employees drive value for the C-suite for posting on LinkedIn. And this was shared to me by Mindy Hankoop, who's the community manager for Progressive HR. And then she also is the founder of Agile in HR. Let me just quick look and see if I have like some of those statistics. So the study was that Harvard Business School analyzed 2 billion employee connections across 7,717 U.S. companies in varying industries.
Wow, and that's pretty big.
It is huge. It's the largest LinkedIn connection study done outside LinkedIn.
Wow. I'd love to share that with everybody as well. So if I can get that from you afterwards.
Absolutely. And I just made a post about it today as well. So
oh, did you? Okay, great.
Yeah, you can add that as part of the thumbnail.
Awesome. Will do. So I'm curious, I guess from your perspective, with that being the case, do you feel like that's going to significantly change how people, use it, or that's still going to be incremental on an individual's desire to plug in?
That's an interesting question. So you have the people that are really rocking LinkedIn, in my opinion, right now. And
yeah, like me, right?
Well, you are rocking LinkedIn. You're part of the 1%. So, okay, LinkedIn just hit 1 billion members a few weeks ago. So now we can say this has been 2 weeks past that. So there's now over 1 billion members on LinkedIn. However, the content creators are still only 1% of all LinkedIn members. Mm-hmm. And so that's a small number. You think about out of 1 billion, it's a lot, but it's still a small number compared to 100% of 1 billion. And so those people are still rocking LinkedIn, and they're going to rock LinkedIn, It's what can we do as the 1% to get the other 99% on board to really make the platform buzz.
Right.
So I don't feel like, who was the person who said that, and I think you might have posted about this, that in a certain year, there's going to be way more content than anybody can consume. Do you remember who that was? I'll have to find that out.
Yeah, no, I remember posting that. That was a couple months ago, right? And I'm trying to remember exactly. But there's more content out there than people can actually consume. And so how do you be relevant to your audience, right? So that you do get the engagement. And there's a lot of lurkers out there. There's a lot of people that are paying attention that aren't liking or sharing or reposting. And certainly I think we'd all, for vanity purposes, like to, for everybody to engage with our content. But I don't think that's the point. I think if you're sending out, quality, that over time those things will happen. And it's weird because I'll every once in a while I'll get somebody who I haven't seen in a while, and they'll post or comment or like something, and I'm like, I haven't seen you in forever. Like, where you been? Like but it sparks in my mind to reach out and have a conversation with that person. And so a lot of times there are people that are dormant and that come in, depending on their career, come in and out of LinkedIn and use it as they see fit. But for those of us that are consistent, it brings incredible value. I told somebody, and it blew their mind. I said, what percentage of my, because I've been in sales my entire career, what percentage of my quota was hit with LinkedIn? And they were like, no. I said 100%. Because it's not that every day I'm interacting with that person on LinkedIn. It's that maybe I met them on LinkedIn 12 years ago, and they referred me a new client, a month ago, right? And I've been kind of at it for a long time. So LinkedIn, especially when I moved from Denver to North Carolina, was my lifeline for making those connections, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you think about culture, keeping things, because we talked about being inclusive and enhancing culture and it being an incredible medium for that, it helped me stay connected not just to the people that I still worked with in the other state that I came from, but also the new people that I was starting to engage with in my home state, which is now North Carolina. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it's an incredible platform for just communication and posting and all the other engagement stuff. But what about enhancing inclusivity and belonging within a company and, you know, just within a community?
So one of the main driving forces of inclusion is embracing our differences. And so LinkedIn really helps us embrace our differences because we're all unique humans. And if you're part of the 1%, you've kind of found your niche about what makes you different than somebody else. And so it's really kind of like showing that and showing other people that are on LinkedIn that you don't have to compare yourself to somebody else, because no two people are alike. And it's really about, you are talking and you're posting about your unique combination of skills, innate qualities, experiences from birth to like where you are now, your background, your education. So all this matrix into like special, individual, unique people. And so the more that you talk about just who you are and see how that is accepted on LinkedIn. And now, grant me, there are some trolls, but we're trying to get rid of them. You know, there's no space for trolls on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, there's just not. And I'm going to be the first person to say that if you find that somebody is trolling you, tag me and I will take care of them, because trolls want attention. Trolls want to get in an argument with you. Trolls want to be the opposite of what you're saying, and they're going to keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until someone says, "Hey, look, what you're doing is not cool. Back off." And it's amazing the support that once someone sees a troll and somebody like starts saying, "Hey, what you're doing is not cool," the support of the LinkedIn community coming around that, because nobody that uses LinkedIn that is a true LinkedIn user likes trolls. So I'm just going to say that out there, right there. Tag me and I will help you. Going back to what we were saying, that everybody wants to support everybody else. And that's one of the cool things about LinkedIn, is that I have never found one place better to bring people in to my community. And it's amazing the networking effect that people have. Like, I was talking with, for example, I was talking with 𝗿𝗂𝘅𝗀𝗍𝗍𝗍 yesterday, and I said, "Hey, do you know Megan Bickle?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I don't know Megan Bickle." And I was like, "Oh, well, I was just on a live stream with Megan Bickle. You should connect with her because you have these two things in common." And so it's just the support of, like, if one person meets one person and recommends another person, and if you keep that going, the support and the inclusivity there. And I think I've got a little off track, but the belonging that we as a community try to create for each other, I mean, it's there. And everybody, part of LinkedIn is learning about things that you don't know about. And so how can you do that unless you're being inclusive and showing, you know, that people belong there? So I hope that answered your question in my roundabout way.
Yeah, no, it brings it full circle. I think it's not just about, you know, your company culture. It's sometimes your tribe or the community that you're engaged with, right? Knowing that they've got your back, you know, whether it's a troll that you're dealing with, or it's just, I went through something like terrible in the world of HR. How many times have you heard it that, you know, HR has to, you know, go through the process of terminating everybody when there's a downturn in business or something like that, only to be the last person terminated in that long line, right? And so when people are going through things, you know, it's nice to know that, like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen LinkedIn help me find this job, right? It's like a little tag above the job, which is pretty cool, right? That, you know, the community can help do that. And look, it's a business platform, it's a social media platform, but it's also a community platform. And so a lot of times LinkedIn, might get the tag there, but it could have been a Coreyne or a Troy or somebody else that made that connection to the job that was maybe listed on LinkedIn. And then maybe even talk to somebody in HR, talk to a, an executive leader. And I think that's really what it's all about. And so, no, I love that.
And to your point, it's about finding the people that have influence, or finding the people that can help you, and supporting them so that so they are reciprocal. And LinkedIn's a lot about being about reciprocity too. I mean, if you're on LinkedIn, and I've always tell my clients it's important to put stuff out there, but it's also important to then support other people. So you are not only trying to create business opportunities for yourself, but you're also creating business opportunities for other people. And that's when really the algorithm starts trending your content.
Well, the algorithm has always been a little bit mysterious, and it's a moving target. So, but one thing that has been consistent for the, I don't know, I've been on there for 13, 14 years now, something like that. It's been a long time. I forget the exact date, but is that when you engage with other people, and not just produce content, but when you engage with whatever they've got going on, that always pays back. And, sometimes in ways that you would never expect. And so I'm sure that you've experienced that. I know that I have. And so my biggest recommendation, even before posting a lot of content, share some things that are about you, but engage with other people, on their content, comment, share, repost, there's community forums. Groups seem to have died at some point. Groups don't really do what they used to do, but used to be a place. But I think on your feed, there's people on there. So don't just be a lurker. If you're interested in using LinkedIn, engage with people, right? Engage with Coreyne, engage with Troy. I'll engage back. I promise. It won't go into a vacuum.
I know. Absolutely. If I don't engage back, it's simply because it did get lost. Or I do happen to be tagged a lot in things, and so there's two types of posts I won't tag on, two types of posts or two type of tags that I won't respond to. One is if you're going to block tag me with a bunch of other people, I don't see the point to responding to that,
right.
Or if you don't let me know why you're tagging me.
Sure.
So if you just tag my name, and I don't know what type of call to action you're giving me.
Right.
Then I don't know what to respond with. So, but if you ask me a question, or you say, I'd like to get your thought leadership on this, or I'm tagging you here because I thought you'd be interested in this, then that helps me respond.
I get that, because sometimes I get tagged with things and I'm like, I don't understand. Other than we know each other, why are you tagging me on this one?
Why are you tagging me?
I'm not an expert on this. You just want me to repost it. Even if that's the case, tell me. You want me to repost it? Shoot me a message. I'm okay. Just repost it. Cool. As long as it's nothing vulgar or something I staunchly don't believe in, then I'm cool with that. I'll give you some crowdsourcing.
Yeah, but I also think that I call this LinkedIn etiquette. So there's certain things that I call our LinkedIn etiquette that I think everybody should know. But that is basic positive culture. So, it's a reflection. What you're doing on LinkedIn is a reflection about how you treat the people in your office, or how you treat the people on your team.
That's
so
right.
We learn a lot about ourselves through LinkedIn and how we interact with other people. And it reflects how we interact with the workplace. Because ultimately, LinkedIn is a workplace social media platform.
Right.
Or a work social media platform.
So I'm curious. I want to dig in here a little bit about kind of your perspective, because you kind of sparked something in my brain when you were talking about that. In your mind, do you have a list of do's and don'ts when it comes to things that would be helpful that you could share here as we're kind of coming towards, home plate?
Yeah. There's do's and don'ts on every single aspect of LinkedIn. So if you can
okay, let's simplify it down to the average person. So your core audience just happens to be human resources and small business, right? For the most part. I know that you do more than that, but you support in those areas, right? So when you're saying, hey, 101, you're jumping on the platform, learning how to do things, let's put that kind of within the box of the question I initially asked. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So My clients are human resource executives, insurance executives, like benefits insurance executives, benefit insurance teams, and core payroll teams, as well as startup founders.
Right.
So I would say, like, I have this thing about the workflow. Like, it's a touch point. Whenever you go into LinkedIn, here's the 5-6 touch points that you should work on. But if you're starting out on LinkedIn, the number one thing that you should be doing is commenting. So a lot of people go out and they think, okay, I'm just going to like this, and the like is going to support the person's post. Well, yeah, to a certain extent, it supports the person's post, but not as much as you just making a quick comment saying, hey, thanks for sharing. Or just simply saying, thank you for posting. Thank you for providing your insight into this. I mean, that is the number one thing that you should be doing on LinkedIn whenever you go in, is looking at your feed and saying, hey, if you stop on something in your feed and you like the article, like, don't just like it or engage with it, like funny or whatever. Post a comment. Number one thing. Because every time you post a comment, somebody sees your picture and sees your profile headline. And so if you do enough comment posting, the more somebody is going to recognize you, and the more you're going to build rapport with somebody.
Right.
Once you start, like, the very simple comments, start making your comments longer, more intentful. And then from your comments, like, if you see, like, let's say I'm posting something about a topic that you're really interested in, and that could be parental leave, and you write a couple of paragraphs, or you write 1 or 2 paragraphs in a comment, you can then copy and paste that comment and make it a post. So you're really moving from, like, simple thanks for sharing comments to more intentional comments, to then taking those comments and copy and pasting them into a post and tagging the person who, sparked your thought. And now you're posting. And then people are going to comment in your post, and then you just comment back. And that's just kind of how it goes. But those are the do's. Also, if you connect with somebody, make sure that you send them a welcome message. Just saying, hey, thanks for connecting. Welcome to my network. Because the worst thing is, if you're looking around, like for a job, and you find that the person that you connected with a year ago and never talked to after that is the person that is going to be the influential person that's going to help you get that job. So what do? You can't go out and message them out of the blue and saying, hey, by the way, I need something from you. You want to create a conversation before, or you want to create rapport before you're asking for something.
Right.
Don't do's. Don't block tag people. Don't block tag people in the posts or in the comments.
We talked about that one.
Yeah, we already talked about that one. Again, if somebody takes the time to comment on your post and it's intentional, like, say thank you. Respond back. If someone is commenting something that only benefits them, like it's a link to something they're selling,
burn them.
Burn them, block them, report them.
Right?
They're going down.
Yeah.
Because then that just helps us. Like, that helps rid another person. I mean, there's bots out there. There's bots out there that will, like, comment on anything and just put tags. There's also fake accounts. So, do us all a favor and alert LinkedIn to them.
Yeah.
I don't know, Troy, is there other things that you've heard me say that I'm not mentioning now that's a do or a don't?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned being authentic is really important. Knowing your audience and who it is that you're speaking to if you're going to start posting. We talked about some baby steps that you can take towards just being effective on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do an incredible job of it, and you've got your, as I call it, your tribe. It's industry leaders around HR. It's, I know you work with other people like myself in the benefits arena and helping them identify opportunities as well. And it's just knowing who your audience is, right? Don't just, build your network for it to be large. Build your network to be, specific, something that you can engage with. I'll be honest, when I first built my network, I was like, yeah, I'll connect with you, sure. And now I'm very discerning. I'm like, no. Like, I probably have 70 connection requests every single month, something like that. And I'm like, I'm no to a lot of them. And it's nothing personal. I'm just like, I know where this goes. Like, I don't have a problem being sold to. I've been in sales my entire career. But if I know that what you're selling is probably not something I'm interested in, like if you're trying to sell me real estate or you're trying to like whatever, I'm not interested in having that conversation. So I save you a lot of time by saying no, because then, whatever. And it's okay, like, because I reach out to people too, and sometimes they ghost me and sometimes they don't. And so I just be specific. And whether it's your connection requests or other things, I would say, the more specific you are, the more dialed in you are to what's most important to them, the more effective your overall, networking will be. And
then, one thing that we talked about right before we started recording was outcomes. So think about what the outcome you want to take place, especially in posting, is that if you are interested in highlighting a certain person and you post and you tag that person and that person responds with a like or a comment, then that post has succeeded in its outcome. Don't be upset that it didn't make over 2,000 impressions. Don't be upset that other people didn't engage with it, because you really truly meant for that post to have the outcome of the one person or the one company engaging with you. Yeah. Now, if you're interested in really like having high impressions, then structure your post on something that's trending on LinkedIn, something that's get a lot more attention. So again, think about when you're posting, what is the outcome you want to have?
And speaking of trending, how do you find stuff that's trending? Like, what's the secret sauce there to be in tune? Because sometimes your feed doesn't always show you everything you want to know, because you're in there for, the average person, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then you're on to, doing the rest of your work.
Yeah, I always look at LinkedIn News. So I look at LinkedIn News, what's going up on LinkedIn News, and then I look at what the editors are posting about. So if you're in the human resources sphere, you should be paying attention to like Gianna Prudente, Andrew Seaman, George Anders, 𝗂𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗏. So look at what they're posting. Look at what they're talking about. Monica Fike, she's another one. Monica Fike, I want to F-I-K-E. She's another one that's very interesting. She's West Coast, so she does a lot about retail and more of like the end of the day news. But yeah, the first two things I do when I go on LinkedIn: what is trending on LinkedIn News? What's Andrew and Gianna talking about today?
Love it.
Yep. And then I go through my feed and I see what's Troy talking about.
Yeah, I'm down there a little far on the list, but I'll take it. If you look at it all, I'll take it. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and just chatting me up a little bit. Any closing thoughts, for the subject, or anything that we didn't cover that you really wanted to?
Yeah, I want to say, like, if you're, not just new to the LinkedIn journey, but if you're like mid-journey, I think everybody's mid-journey. I'm still mid-journey. I don't have my LinkedIn perfected, and I don't think it'll ever get there. And there's a lot of things that I tell my clients to do that I don't necessarily do because I don't have the time. But if you're starting your journey or you're mid-journey, the number one thing to think about is don't compare yourself to somebody else. You are your own unique human. You have your own unique combo of perspectives and backgrounds, and nobody is going to say something exactly the way that you would say it unless it's a copy-paste. So don't worry that what a lot of clients come to me, and one of the questions they ask is, well, why would anybody want to read what I'm saying? Or why would anybody want to read what I'm writing? And Kristen Strunk, my main content manager, she always said, well, why wouldn't they? So why are you thinking they wouldn't want to read what you're saying? Mm-hmm. So always open yourself up to the possibility that there is 100 other people like yourselves out there that are going to be interested in what you want to talk about. And they'll find you.
They'll find you. That's the secret.
You.
They'll find you. Well, that's incredibly insightful. I learned a few things, which is always good. I'm always, I think that's why I have the show, so I can learn a few things from people that I admire. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and your enlightenment. on us. And to my listeners, I want to thank you for, subscribing to the channel. Make sure you comment on this one. I'd love to hear your ideas on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your ideas on maybe some strategies or ways that you're using it effectively to engage with people. Or better yet, if you have questions, make sure you put those in the comment as well. And I'll make sure that those also get to, both my team and anybody else you want to potentially be on the show. So I want to say thank you for the subscription, and we'll see you next week. Take care.